That'll help. Good evening, guys. How you doing? It's me. It's Rich. It's 8 o'clock. It's Thursday, and I am live. I hope you are all well. I hope you've had a great week so far. I have, apart from this horrendous weather, and also being accused of having an office like a 12-year-old's bedroom. I'll accept that. It's probably true, but you know what? I like my toys. They're not going anywhere. Tough shit. So tonight we are going to be talking about the hustle culture, not just in the world, but also specifically in the medical aesthetics market that I work in. But I'll just wait for a couple of minutes for you guys to kind of jump in, say hi in the chat, let me know where you are, where you're from. If you're watching this on replay, hello again, hello back to you replayers. Turn up live. It makes it more fun if you're here. But you know what? If you're watching, that's good. That's good. That's good enough for me. So right, let's just check in there. Live. Right. So okay. So tonight we are talking about why hustle isn't working for you, and as you have probably been told many times by me, if you've been watching this and know about me, yes, suffer from burnout, and have suddenly become very, very tuned into this whole hustle bullshit, right? It doesn't do us any favors. I think it's a very toxic way of thinking about your business, and it has a massive impact on your life. You know, no shit. You might hear me say, okay, fair enough. But let me show you something. I was going to share some insight with you. I'll find out where I stashed it now. But I was looking at some stats on small business mental health, and I had it all prepped. And obviously, I went and closed the thing I was looking at. But here we go. Here we got it. Mental health awareness week. Okay, so let me just share this with you, because when I started doing my research for this, yes, I do research for this. I found it quite startling. So this is from the Small Business Commissioner, on I think it's a government agency, and I was just reading through here. I'll put the link to this in the chat, but some of the stats. So 4/5 of small business owners experience common symptoms of poor mental health at least a few times a year. 8 out of 10 report symptoms, with more women than men affected, and only 4 in 10 look for support. It's a bit sad, isn't it? I wonder why is it only 4 in 10 look for support? Well, I know exactly why that is, and I'll tell you in a sec. Business owners report inability to focus. Yeah, that's me. Anxiety. Yep. And disrupted sleep. Yes. And almost a quarter have panic attacks, and more than a third experience symptoms of depression. And I read this out and I thought, absolutely, totally agree with everything. And one of the key things that I saw, and I totally agree with this, is small business owners don't take time off when they're struggling. They have to keep the show on the roads, hit deadlines, deliver goods and services, and often there's no one there to step in to help. And that is what I'm here to help kind of try and fix. Because it is a challenge, right? And all of those things, you know, when your business is struggling, you feel that you have to double down. You can't take time off. You put your foot down harder and harder and harder, and eventually there's nothing left. You've burnt all your energy. And that's a really, really sad thing. It's a really sad way to kind of run your business, but also it's a sad way to live your life. And having done it, it's not going to happen again. And there is a way in which that you can kind of catch it now. Even if you're not experiencing any of those sorts of symptoms, you can look at the data, and like the chances are at some point that you will catch it now and put the processes in place to avoid it happening. And if you have had it, you know, totally sympathize with you. These are also the same things that you can do to put in place to rebuild your business, but also without it feeling the same way again, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And I think the definition of complete complete insanity, and also a little bit of stupidity in there as well, is rebuilding the business all your life in exactly the same way. Why would we do that? So back to the plot. Right. So I have done some slides. Why? Because it's like, it's good. I can sit and talk to you like this, but you know what? Slides definitely, I suppose they make it visually more interesting. You guys, you tell me, slides or no slides. I quite like them because the AI who does my slides comes up with some random photos, random shit in this. So we can talk about that as well. Cool. Okay. So what I have defined as the hustle hangover, rediscovering alignment. Now, alignment is something I'm very, very passionate about and very tuned into. I think having this concept of an aligned business that works for you rather than against you is super important for any business owner. Because the negative of that is obviously that you think that you're doing everything right, but you're still stuck. And what we're going to do in this next sort of 20 minutes or so is just go through how you to sort of recognize this trap, the hustle culture trap, but then also build some ideas and some strategies that give you energy rather than actually draining it from you. Like this poor AI generated gentleman here with his deadline approaching, screen pointing the wrong way. Never mind. All right. So the trap. Okay. So this is what I think it is that kind of bakes us into this little hustle world, right? Which is, even if you think that when things are going well, you kind of get pushed into this sort of process where you just kind of got to double down. And that's just not, that's not what it should be about. I really don't believe it. And I don't think it has to be that way. Excuse me. The trap of more hours. I remember at one of my early sales jobs, the sales culture was more calls equals more sales. And that was what they used to say to us. More calls equals more sales. The more doors you knock on, the more money you generate. The more conversations you have, the more bonus you make. And I kind of bought into that for a bit until I actually realized that that was horseshit. Honestly, it was total bollocks. Excuse me. The actual real way is it's higher quality conversations. Having the right conversations with the right people, looking for a win-win, will generate the right result. And if you spend more time looking for the right people rather than going and knocking on random doors, you'll generate as much, if not more, revenue than you would do if you just had this blanket sales robot strategy. And when I discovered that, I ended up getting kind of promoted or just literally sacked out of the field sales team because that's not what they wanted. So this whole thing around more hours, it's very much a sales rep mentality, and it doesn't have to be so. Constant pressure, you feel it. It's, again, if you're employed, I do think that there is this pressure. And again, I'm using my own point of reference as in field sales and pharmaceutical sales as my reference point. But this endless push, do more, be more, generate more, you're letting the team down, all this sort of stuff. It just doesn't, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. Success equals suffering. Worth comes through struggle. And I get it. Yes, I do agree to a point that you do have to struggle in order to gain success. But does it have to come at such a cost? The mental toll, the anxiety, the burnout, diminished creativity. And as I say, that becomes normalized. So more hours, constant pressure, success equals suffering, and the mental toll that it gives you is just too much. It's just too much. As I'm going through this, by the way, guys, those you watching, love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you experienced any of this? Are you experiencing it now? People watching this, because this is on YouTube, right? It's a public access. Might be people watching this who aren't working for themselves, but are working for a company or an organization and are feeling this. Because I'd like to think that field sales has changed a bit in the last 15 years, but I'm not entirely sure it has. So this is the trap that we fall into. So 3 signs that your business is misaligned. Look at my dude here, trying to fit square pegs into round holes. Now, looking at the size of those holes, he's got no problem fitting those in. Mate, seriously, what are you doing? What are you doing? You can easily get those in there, you fool. So 3 signs you're misaligned, right? Exhaustion despite success. You're doing well. It's working, and you're still knackered. You should be elated. You should be on fire. You should be on holiday. You should be enjoying yourself. If your business is firing and everything's going well and you're still tired and not enjoying this, then there is something wrong. You're out of alignment, definitely out of alignment. The diminishing returns, if it's starting to fall a little bit, you may start noticing that you're working harder, but you're not getting the same things that you were beforehand. And there's a few different reasons for that, which I will go into. But predominantly, what I often find is it's a quality issue. Is you're doing the same things, but you're not as good at it because you don't care as much. So your insight, you might not want to share it. Your creativity starts to drop. Your quality of your sales calls, the quality of your content, all these different things just start to drop a little bit. And it doesn't need to be much. It doesn't need to be much. You start, the messages change. You look tired. You look disinterested. And suddenly, you're not going to be giving as much out, and you're not going to be getting the same amount of back in. We'll be getting less back in. And the last one, and this is one I felt hugely, was resentment towards your own business. You created something that you don't want to show up for anymore. And I'd say that in kind of these actually do work in kind of order. You're kind of knackered. It's not working as well, and you're starting to resent your business. And the resentment, I often think that's because you haven't put boundaries in place. So your customers are tuned in to taking a lot from you. They're tuned into receiving rather than giving. And the value exchange is out of whack. That's not aligned. You're putting a lot in, you're not getting much out, you're knackered. Who isn't going to be pissed off if this is their reality? Same as this guy here, who's quite clearly able to put square pegs in round holes, but not managing to achieve it. Nice metaphor, AI. Well done. Okay, so we've looked at the challenges that having this hustle culture gives us. By the way, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying that, more hours, perpetual availability, output, value through output, sacrifices of virtue. I'm not saying that these aren't things that you should do. If you're in the early stages of a business, then absolutely, you've got to put it in. There's no alternative to getting that, the 0 to 60. How do I get my first clients? How do I get this? How do I get that? Sorry, guys, it's more hours. Put the hours in. It's being around, answering questions when you might not want to. It's creating value through your output. And it is, there's going to be some sacrifices in there, right? Time, energy, money. If you're starting a business, startup, you don't have a lot of money. So you're going to be putting time and energy in there. So I'm sorry, that is a reality, but a reality for a period of time. And what I find is that this becomes the norm, that this is normalized, when actually what we need to be doing is, yes, accepting that this is a truth for a while, but then we need to evolve into a bit more of an aligned business. So how are we being effective with our time, our prioritization processes? How are we focusing our time, energy, and money, the resources that we have, to make sure that they deliver the most value for us and our customers in the shortest possible time? Our strategic boundaries. Have we set limits? Are we, open all hours, Mr. 24/7? I'll answer my phone at 9 o'clock on WhatsApp when I'm trying to watch, Married at First Sight Australia. No, I don't miss maths for nothing. So, we've got to set our boundaries. Value through impact rather than output. So, it's not about what we do, it's the impact that has for our customers. We're delivering value for them, it has a massive impact, changes their lives, and we get our value from that. And sustainability as a virtue, not sacrifice. We are able to generate revenue without us being involved in the process. And again, all of this takes time, but this is the evolution. This is what you need to do. So I'm just going to make this. I'm just going to make this one point now, and then I will jump back to some questions. So, I'll skip that one. This, I think, is a really, really important point, and I will stop my share, and then we'll have a chat about this, and then we can carry on. But get better clients. So I had a conversation today earlier with a client, and it's become very much a value. There's a mutuality to it, and I was sort of talking to her about, she's been very aware of the challenges that have happened in my life, incredibly supportive. She's had those challenges before in her life as well. So she's very, very aware of, where I've been and where I'm at. And we kind of almost like work, to help each other out, right? That's mutuality. And what I kind of realized, I think, is at a point is in my business, my clients started to change, and not in a kind of, they didn't become, it's not the case they became bad clients. It's not like that at all. It's just the toll, the mutuality wasn't there. The drain was there. And if you consider that in your business, you spend a shitload of time with your clients, right? And if you don't choose them and select them, they're going to drain you. You're going to start getting in this little hustle trap, because it's easy to erode boundaries, and it's easy to kind of, sacrifice yourself, become the rescuer. It's easy to do those things. It's hard to say no to people sometimes. It's hard to say, no, you're not right for me. And I think the other thing is, this is where maybe this has also become a bit of a juncture in this market, where there's this great desire for a lot of people around digital marketing for offers, right? So you got these companies out there saying, hey, you know what, we will get you X number of clients through the door. If you don't get them, you don't pay. I mean, that's very attractive to a business. But the problem is that if you go for speed, you don't have a chance to vet these customers. You have no idea who they are. And you're actually inviting quite a lot of chaos into your life. And that's not going to be a good thing. You might get lucky, but often what you invite in they're just the wrong people. Their clients are just not good enough. So you either have to, spend a lot of time explaining things to them, or maybe they're after, they're price sensitive and asking you for discounts, all these different aspects of things. But if you take a slower run at it, word of mouth processes, partnerships with local businesses, creating little referral pods with other businesses in your area, other professionals who, target the same clients, but maybe do complementary services to you. Yes, it takes longer to build, but you're not throwing each other hand grenades. Hopefully you're not anyway. There's a mutuality to it. And that's become a really quite an important word for me, is mutuality. It's not just about, you have a problem, I have the solution for it, and then you pay me and I solve that particular problem for it. In a transactional relationship, of course, that's how it works. But if you're listening to this, more often than not, you're going to be in a service business. So there's a human cost as well. There's a transfer of emotion. There's a transfer of energy. And if that's not balanced, then it's going to be hard. So again, I'd be really interested to know if people would feel slightly burnt out, whether or not the quality of their clients or the type of clients they have has changed, and what impact that might have had on their business. Discuss. Right, so I will just jump in and say hi to you. See who's on. Amy, hello, how you doing? Kumar, hello, good to see you. Tawa, it's always lovely to have you on here. It's great to have you here. Amy, I've had a long conversation with the right person makes sense. It does to me, but if your KPI, if the key performance indicator for a job is the number of people that you see per day and sales, that's how they're measuring your effectiveness. Number of people you've seen and the sales. And the reason I was an outlier is our call rate was 6 a day. I was an outlier because I'd be seeing 3 and generating 3-4 times revenue everyone else. Yes, I was in London. They always used to say that. Well, you should do. You're in London. I'm like, there's more people there. There's more people. There's more people for me to call on, and I'm not calling on half the number and getting twice the money. That's because this is working. This here for thinking, down there for dancing. I wish I'd said that. I didn't, but I really wish I had. So how do we get this message across about impact over output, especially when people are chasing a quick fix? That's a really, really good question. So that for me, it comes down to leadership. It totally comes down to leadership. If you're building long-term relationships with your clients, which of course you are, then there is always definitely this bit at the beginning, which is want versus need. So people come in with a problem and they want a solution, and you're looking at they're saying, I know that's what you want, but this is what you need. Give them what they want and then tell them what they need. That initial trust gets built with, yes, of course, let's solve the problem for you right now. However, over the next XY, period of time, this is what we're going to do. And then if you drop the word, this is the impact it will have. And if in your questioning and your fact find at the beginning, you really actually understand what the emotional challenge they have, is it it's causing them embarrassment, or if it's having some sort of emotional impact on them. And if at the end of that process, say, yeah, we'll fix that for you now so you feel great, and then over the next 6 months we'll do this, 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 and this, and then that will give you the impact that you want. It's a very powerful word. That's how I'd look at doing it. It's, if people are coming in asking for a quick fix and that's all they want, then the question goes back to get better clients. Because if that's all you're going to get, people who just want that transactional relationship, it's going to drain you. And then, all the horrible things that we've talked about up until now will happen. Amy, I had one of those clients, very demanding, often unreasonable. And it took me a while to say enough because she'd been spending, and I thought that's what I should because she was buying. Yeah, it's when I think about, and again, this is just what's happening over the period of time when I started to consider things, and time, energy, and money. Energy and money, I think they're almost connected, because energy is a form of money in a sense. If you work all your life and you generate all this cash and you live in a nice house, and then you die and you've got all this cash in this house, and then you gets liquidated, it's kind of unspent energy, isn't it? It's like, say to my kids, don't expect me to have anything, I'm burning it all out, right? So it's kind of unspent energy. And if you think about, yes, she's giving you a lot of easy energy, in the cash, but then taking your product and your life force in the hassles and the stuff like that. It's like, what's the balance, right? What's it worth? The anxiety, the, oh God, the fear when you open up your messages, all that kind of stuff. You got to think about what it's worth. And I think in the early stages of a business, or when businesses are in distress, the desire to jump in for clients and get and hold on to clients, even when they're wrong clients, is higher, especially if they're paying a lot of money for paying you money. Whereas a bit of bravery, get rid of them and use that energy to find better clients is in my view the better thing to do, because it's not going to shut off your creativity. You're going to be in a calmer place. Yes, of course, the money aspect of it will still be there, but you'll be able to deliver a better product or service, in my mind. Okay, last one, and I'll jump on. I've had loads of art marketers reaching out and promise me the world. When I ask how they triage or vet the many leads, they promise me I get nonsense responses. Yeah, because do you know what the truth of the matter is? They don't, and they won't, because that's not their job. They see that as your job. Their job's just to get you the leads, and we'll get you the leads, and they're just out there. That's the game. Get as many as possible, and you're the one who has to do all of the hard work in triaging and making sure that they're, right for you. So, again, everyone, there are positives and negatives. And I think, in the early stages, maybe when business is a bit chaotic and you need an influx of cash, then yeah, why not? But I do think as more maturer businesses, if that should be a strategic approach to that. So, if one of those sort of rang me up, and I get them as well, and it'd be like, right, well, how much do you know about my market? How much do you know about my ideal client? These are the type of clients that I want, and you get me these types of clients, then great. But if they're not coming through, you're getting paid, and they run a mile because it's not what they're about. Cool. Some really good questions there, guys. Thank you for that. Yeah, jump in. More is better. More is better. Right. So the momentum shift. So how do we move from that space? How do we move from here to here, from hustle to alignment? Well, easy. Easy said, more challenging to do. Values, vision, values, belief systems, structure it around those. All these things, authenticity, integrity. Integrity is what people say about you when you're not there. Authenticity is what you do when people aren't looking. Or it might be the other way around, but you get my point. So it has to be based around what matters to you, what you actually care about. And if you listen, mostly in the kind of aesthetics market, your service suite will probably be very much aligned around that anyway. So then it just becomes a process of effectively communicating your vision and values and what matters to you, because you communicate that and it'll connect with other people who care about what you're talking about and get better clients. I would say it's really simple, because if you care about money, then you're going to get people who care about money. If you care about the outcome, then you're going to get people who care about the outcome. But that's what you care. And I've had these conversations with people before, and if it does become about a sprint for cash is okay. But if that's your core, then what kind of business are you running? If it's just about extracting money from people, then you're going to get people who either vulnerable because it's easy to extract money from them, which makes you an asshole, or you're going to get people who are price sensitive and they'll run you into the ground. They'll run you ragged. So that feeds into the next thing, right? Filter opportunities. If it doesn't fit, say no. Simple. Do more of what works, do less of what doesn't. Harness natural energy. Your body's natural rhythms. When does it work? When doesn't it work? I totally understand, especially in the aesthetic market. You guys are in clinic a lot during the day. So when it comes to the evenings, creating content, doing admin, all that sort of stuff, it's not much fun. But it's one of those things that if you've got a period during the day where you can kind of just take a 45 minutes to an hour and create the sort of content, then when you're in energy, great. If you find yourself with a lot of energy on a Thursday morning, maybe that's when you sort of start creating content, doing your marketing around that sort of time. But yeah, try and find your natural rhythm. My natural rhythm, people said, what, can you not do these things during working hours during the day? Yeah, I can. But my natural rhythm for this sort of thing is actually in the evening. It's when my mind is in that state. It's calm. The noise of the day has gone quieter. I'm in a much more creative mindset. I find it easier to talk. I feel less stressed. I'm okay. I'm happy to talk. Right. Tried lots of different times doing lives. Thursday, 8:00, just sits with me. Create reinforcing systems. I say before, I say many times again, you need to become experts at creating systems, because when you go when you're in that hustle state, thinking, how can I make this easier? How can I make this simpler? How can I not do this? And this should be kind of your constant process, and little notebook, just jotting it down. Need to fix this, need to fix that, need to fix this, need to fix that. Try not to look at those as like the little jobs that are, oh God, all these things to do. Just fix one of it. Oh, let me take that one and I'll fix that. You go through enough. When we're fans of movies, The Martian, with Matt Damon, right at the end of that film, when spoiler alert, honestly, if you haven't watched it by now, sorry, yeah, he gets back. So, and when he's doing his presentation at the end of it, what he just says is, you fix one problem, then another, and then another, and you fix enough, you get to come home. And that's how when I was like, so much genius from Hollywood. But I thought that is a perfect way of explaining it, because that's what you do. You just write the problem down and fix it. Write the problem down and fix it. Okay, so get better clients and build. So we're talking about building for sustainable success. There's not many more slides to go, and then we can have a chat. But I just want to put these out there because, one, if you're watching it back, it gives you something to think about. Two, when I cut this up for my short form content, it has visuals. Again, like I said, up here for thinking, down there for dancing. Fulfillment. Work with your energies rather than what depletes you. Create processes that carry the load. Team. If you at some point you're going to need to build a team. You can't do it all on your own. And yes, recruitment, I know, can be quite scary. Hire slow, fire fast. Set your vision, your values, and be crystal clear on what you want people to do for you. What does success look like? Simple. And the last is value exchange. This whole thing about, charge what you're worth is great, but people want value, and you have to balance it. And think about what the value you provide is, and that comes down to the impact that you're creating. So if the impact you're creating is, I'm going to stick this needle in your face and inject this stuff into you, great. Or if this impact is going to be, I'm going to change how you really feel about yourself, job. They've both got completely different pricing structures. So a lot of it also depends on where you are and the confidence level that you have. But there's a great book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, talks about identity shifts. Highly recommend reading it if you haven't already. It's a really great book, but it talks about, again, how you can shift your own mindset. And actually, I think there's a lot of value in that for also when you're from a client leadership point of view on the journey that they also are going through. So it's a good book. It's worth a look. It's definitely worth a look. Okay, so efforts to alignment. Work less, sounds simple. Charge more, sounds simple. Delegate clearly, market with clarity. There you go. And then you can have this life of being... AI every now comes up with a cracker. So how these slides work is I feed it the points, and it creates the kind of... I feed it the details. It's not just me talking over AI. This is my insight, right? But it comes up with these images. Last week, it came up with Suited Phoenix, which is a bit of a classic. What is she doing? I really don't know what she's doing. This apparently is some sort of irrigation process. Don't know any answers on a postcard. But yeah, so to move yourself from the maximum effort to alignment, right, is create systems, work out how you can charge more. And if it's not as simple as stick your pricing up. That might work, but it also doesn't work. Some things you might need to keep that price because they're accessible and you get more clients from that point of view. So there needs to be a strategic approach taken to it. And as I said, based on transformation, not time. What's the impact that you're going to have? What's the impact this procedure is going to have? What's your skill level in it? Are you a trainer in it? All these different things, need to be created and articulated. Delegate. If you haven't got a team, you're going to have one soon. Maybe even start thinking about your digital support systems as your team. You value your tech stack. Because when you start thinking about the things you're going to fix, the cheapest and easiest way to fix them early on is actually systemize. And then when you hire someone, all you're doing is you're delegating the management of the system. Makes sense if you're working with me on this. And market with clarity, right? Because your message needs to hit. Speak to your needs, not features. Talk to their emotional need. And that will change your pricing forever. Okay, so here's your little bit of homework. You get a little bit of a task at the end of each one of these. So this is task number 2 of 5. I want you to audit yourselves. I want you to have a think. Ask yourself these questions. What are you still doing right now that future self would have outsourced? So put yourself in the mindset of your future business owner. So, that you're the leader of your business. And while we're listening to this, what I want you to do is write down what have you outsourced? And, it could be anything. It might even be the treatments, might even be the things that you're doing that are making you money. Write it down. Don't be shy. Be brave and just write it down. Get rid of it. What will you got rid of? Or outsourced rather? What would you have eliminated? What tasks would you not doing at all? Maybe the business isn't doing, what you've got rid of. What can you automate right now? And what could be handled by someone else? Yes, it's an Eisenhower matrix, but I've changed the questions a little bit. So, what are you doing right now? What have you outsourced? What have you got rid of? What have you systemized? And what have you delegated to another human being? And I will bet my bollocks for a barn dance. I didn't come up with that phrase. That just jumped into my head. It was my mate Duncan from the Forest of Dean who taught me that one. That what you have done is created a little bit of a plan for how you're going to move yourself from hustle to alignment. Mic drop. You're welcome. So before I shoot, if you're interested in exploring this with me in any detail, right, drop me a message, drop me a PM. We'll get a date in for a brainstorm, a one-to-one. If it's appropriate to talk about coaching options and next steps, I absolutely will do that. If it's not, you get half an hour with me with my advice to help you for no charge. Can't say fairer than that. So that's what you do. Those are your next steps. And I will pop a little link into the WhatsApp for you to book in if you want to. Right. So let me just pop that in there. I'll pop the link in and then I shall answer questions. Let me just find the link. I'm getting slicker at this. Could be better. What have I done with the bloody link? Here we go. There we go. There we go. Oh, well, by the way, if you had a call with me before and you want to have another one, that's not a problem at all. Right. There we go. There is a link. Cool. So, let's have a look at these. That's where the burnout happens, having to trawl and vet. Absolutely, yes. That's exactly where it happens, right? So if you can put processes in place in the earlier stages that make it much clearer what type of clients you want. So here's an example. So I know somebody, she's a VA, and she does things like this, lives, lots of content, etc., etc. There's a little booking link on her booking link. There's a series of questions. One of the questions is, are you prepared to invest £10,000 to automate or blah 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 her services? And that's her qualifying criteria. If you answer that question is no, there's no point booking. And I love that because it's very, very clear. It sets that expectation really early on. So things like that, someone's like, yeah, that sounds exactly what I'm after, and I have that to invest. Perfect. It's not a case of her being, grabby. It's just the type of VA work that she does is actually about implementing systems. So there's a lot around CRM systems, actually, to get CRM systems to work for people. And that's a ball ache, right? So, it's not something I want to do. And she gets paid for it. She works, a couple of clients at one time, does the project, moves on. But that's what she charges. And, if you want to get that done for less than 10K, that's fine, but it's not with her. And I love that clarity. So, you can put these sort of things in place to help you just, vet and triage and filter. And there's another word, qualify. That's the word, the sales word for it. Qualify your clients or potential clients. I made a decision last year to go for quality over quantity. It's scary at first, turning potential clients away, but I feel better for it if they don't meet my criteria. Exactly as we just said. Yeah, perfect. I think, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with businesses that deal with quantity. Nothing. But you get what you get. 9 times out of 10, you get what you pay for. And if you're a business, you can't do both. You just can't. I've seen businesses try, we'll do probably a high quality service at low prices. Good luck. Just doesn't work. Your costs are too high. Cost base is too high. So, it's burn yourself out and run out of money. Brilliant book. Yeah, I really like it. I think the audiobook might be okay. There are little exercises in the book that really sort of stop you and help you thinking. And it's not a page turner, not for me. It's a book. You sort of work through it a little bit. But it's definitely inspired me actually during my period of learning and reflection. It's got a new name. In how I wanted to reapproach things. And yeah, identity shift. You got to, become the change that you want to see. And it's like, yeah, I like that. So let's do it. Amy, packing and posting orders. Yeah, you could probably outsource that. Who can you get? Decisions. Cool. Right. So this I shall wrap up and summarize. So hustle, not good. Planned strategic hustle, yes, is good, but it's about sustainability, not flat out madness, burning yourself out without any processes at all. How you create it, it's simpler than you think, but it is just a big old mindset shift. And we've got the next couple of sessions. So this is session 2 of 5. Next week, I'm going to be talking about. Let me just bring up my thing. Oh, next week's a good one. Next week, I am talking about why your content is boring and how to fix it fast. So we're going to be moving on from the kind of the strategic aspect of it into some very specific looks at different types of content, why they work, how they can work better. And just really starting to drive into the tactical aspects of things before we finish off on the 26th of June with the last one. And then I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and then I will be back for season 2, which will be talking about do you know what? I'll leave that one as a surprise for you. So if there are no more questions or anything like that, I'm gonna head off and leave you guys to it. Once again, thank you very, very much for being here. If you're watching this on replay, I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love some feedback. Leave something in the comments. Just let me know how if you found this useful. And even if you didn't find it useful, you could leave me a comment. It's always good. Trolls are awesome because they really increase your reach. Trolls are good. They really help. They help you get in front of people. So anyway, listen, I'm going to say it from there. Have a fantastic weekend. See you guys next week. Take it easy. Peace out.